Do you ever wonder why you're doing what you do in life? Do you wish that you could be really happy and passionate about what you do? Or maybe you already are and you want to expand in a different direction. Hi, I'm Barbara Ann, host of What the Why? I love what I do. A lot of that has to do with my story, my journey to this point in life. And guess what? Everybody has a story. So please join me for conversations with leaders from all walks of life about what they do, and more importantly, why they do it, how they found their core purpose, their passion, their mission in life. And if you're looking for your own, maybe you'll get some great suggestions on how you too can find your why.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of What the Why. If you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured out it was their purpose. And today's guest is no exception. Maybe at some point you felt sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, or maybe you felt stuck and you wanted to get unstuck or pivot into something that was more meaningful to you. Today's guest is no exception. I would love to introduce you to Daniel Dluzneski. And Daniel is the author of a book, but that is just one of the many things that he's done. He is a retired lieutenant from the U.S. Secret Service. He's former coordinator of emergency management, safety, and security for school system. He grew up in Connecticut, loves animals. He's done so many amazing things throughout his life, not the least of which really was the Secret Service and the 20 years he spent in that. And I don't want to give everything away because the list of things that he's done, the certifications that he has, and then of course his book, which is one of the things we're going to talk about, the first 5 minutes and how that came into being, is so important for us to have a conversation about at this time in the United States and really in other parts of the world. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming to today's show, Daniel Dluzneski. So yeah, welcome. We get the round of applause. So
Thank you, Barbara Ann. Appreciate it.
yeah, and thank you. Now, of course, in our fourth season, first as a podcast, the first question we always ask after we run through kind of an overview of the person's background is, but what did you really want to be when little Daniel was growing up?
Little Daniel, probably a police officer or a fireman. It was one of those types. When you play around, it was just me and my cousin. We lived on a farm, so I didn't have a lot of playmates. So usually, you play cops and robbers and stuff like that, and cowboys and Indians and all that kind of stuff. But probably a police officer. It wasn't until I was basically in high school that I decided that I wanted to go into radio and broadcasting, mostly sports broadcasting, and not really anything to do with television. I loved listening to Marv Albert on the radio. And I know he had some issues later on in his life, but being in Connecticut, all I had was to listen to was New York and the New York Knicks, who I was not a fan of, but I just loved listening to him call the games on the radio, the way he would describe it, because you really didn't need a TV, the way he described the game. And it just flew, or it was a flow about it that he would talk about these games. So I really leaned into that. And fortunately, now this is way back when, in the 70s. So we didn't have the internet, we didn't have anything like that. And we just started with video cameras, and they let me call the games. Not to an
Wow.
audience, basically, but it was a taped version of it. So I did that, and I really enjoyed it, and that's what I went to school for. I went to college in Southern Illinois, and they had a great program there. So I stuck with it for a while. It became very cliquish, and it was kind of like who you knew, and not what you knew or your voice or anything like that. And I kind of drifted away, and I was going to take criminal justice as a minor. So that's how I ended up. I ended up with a criminal justice major and went from there. But it was kind of funny because once I got back home from Illinois, I applied to the state police and some local police, and it wasn't a county system up there. And I just got kind of disillusioned with it because I don't know. I guess it just, most people when they have interactions with police officers, what is it? It's usually a traffic stop. 99 times nine times out of 10, it's a traffic stop. And unless you have really good, a good relationship that happened there, most of the time your heart is just pounding and you're like, oh, okay, now, what is this? Is this guy going to be a jerk? Is he going to be good? Whatever. And I just I got disillusioned with that also. So I knocked around in a bunch of different jobs. I worked in a warehouse. I worked with DHL Express. I worked with a security company. I drove a school bus. I mean, I was all over the place, which actually worked out very well, just having different jobs and that aspect of it. And again, this is before the internet. And I think I talked to someone, I don't know if it was someone that was a mentor or an adult, but they said, hey, the Secret Service down in Washington, D.C., they're recruiting right now. I'm like, okay. So I went, you had to actually visit. It was, again, no online. You drive down to Washington, D.C., and you actually apply. And I applied, and this was in 1980, and everything was going along fine. I did great on the test, ready to go. Then I had my physical, and I had to send those results from my local doctor down there. And they kept sending back paperwork with this red magic marker, like a teacher would, your height must be in proportion to your weight. I'm like, oh my God, you're kidding me. I didn't know if they thought I was obese or what. How I got a phone number, I have no idea. I got through to somebody and they said, oh no, you need to weigh X amount of pounds for your height. I was about, I don't know, 6 or 7 pounds underweight. And I said, well, hire me. I'll gain the weight, obviously. Oh no, the process stops. So me, honest Dan, instead of going to my doctor and say, will you put some whiteout on there and add about 7 or 8 pounds? Oh no, I go on a weight training program. It took me a month. My
Wow.
metabolism was so fast that I'm eating and I'm working out, getting muscle, getting nothing. A month it took me to gain that stupid weight. Then I call up, I'm ready. Okay, I'm going to send the paperwork back in. Oh, you just missed it. Well, when's the next class? Well, not for a year. I'm like, I am not going to sit around for a year waiting for this. So I went and did other things, knocked around jobs again. Now it's 8 years later and I still don't have a career. And I looked it up, and at the time, I still think it's still the same. Secret Service, the maximum age was 34 that you could apply, and I was 32. I thought, all right, let me try this again. And this time, again, flying colors, no problem. And it worked to my advantage. Number one, because I had my education already, and at that time, not many on the force had their college education. Now it's a rite of passage, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I was older, so my supervisors were my age, and I had more opportunities, and it just worked out. So whatever happened, a lot of times in life, it's luck, it's timing, it's some mentor telling you something, and this worked out for me, just timing wise, and I stuck with it. So I was there for 24 years, and I was able to stay in Washington, D.C. the entire time. And I wanted to work with the uniform division, which is a separate division. They have all the specialty units. They have canine, they have the motorcycles, they have the snipers on the roof, they have the SWAT team. I mean, that's what I want. I want to do something specialized. And luckily, I was able to do that. So I got my 3 years in and got my dog. His name was Korak, and he came from overseas. And at the time, it's changed a little bit now, but that was the longest training. It was 26 weeks of training with a dog because we did not only bite work, but we did bomb detection also.
Okay.
So they were dual trained. They separated those two divisions now, but at the time he was dual trained. And they want you to bring the dog home. Unlike the military, which kennels the dog, and you don't know what individual's going to come and get the dog. They wanted that bond in the Secret Service. So after 5 or 6 weeks, I think it was, they allowed us to take the dog home because they wanted to make sure that if something happened, you can get that dog off the bite because the way we were taught, liability wise, like when that dog bites somebody, it's the same as if you pull a gun and shoot somebody. So there was that liability in the back of your mind the whole time. So you're kind of, it's pretty anxiety driven. But he lived here, was 13 years old. He's a great dog. He was a great family pet when he retired. So it worked out pretty well. And then from there, I did other jobs within the Secret Service. I did tours of the White House. I became a crime scene search technician. I mean, it just flowed after that. I started right at the end of Reagan's term, and I finished up in Obama's term. And then retired, came down to Florida, and was going to retire. And I was going to be like, oh, yeah, just sit on a beach, have a beer, I'm good. Well, as you know, most alpha personalities, that doesn't work very well. So after about 3 months, my ex-wife now, she said, look, you got to get a job. And she was the one who found it for me. She said, look, I saw something in the paper about a safety coordinator at the school system in Pinellas County, and I think it fits your resume. And it did. And so I put my resume in, got on the job. And still, even when I went to the interview, I thought, Florida, this is where people go to retire. This is not where there's kids. Oh no, I was completely wrong. Pinellas County is one of the densest. I think Miami-Dade's also really dense. It's very, very dense county. And I got thrown into this dealing with 105,000 students and 140 schools, and it was just me. You
Wow.
got it, Dan. Go for it. No staff, no secretary, no underlings, nobody to help me. Make our school safe. You got it. So I, okay. Here, I don't like sitting at a desk, excuse me. And I just went out and I made my goal to meet every one of those principals in those 140 schools. It took me a year, but I wanted to make sure they saw me face to face because to me, it was all about customer service and talking to these people and finding out what's going on and why they're doing what they do. So a lot of it to me was common sense. I know now we've gotten away from a lot of the stuff with school safety, but at the time they were still using codes, code red, code blue, green, whatever the heck the codes were, and it was different for every school. It didn't matter. The codes, and I told them, look, just use plain language. You're not going to scare anybody. We've been dealing with these drills before. Just use plain language. It is a lockdown. It's a lockout. It's tornado warning, whatever it is, bomb threat. That took a while. Then the other thing, which just recently, before I left, was locking the classroom doors.
Mm.
And I understand teachers hated that because you got kids that want to go to the bathroom, they want to go here, they want to go there, tough. Keep the door locked. You're already one step ahead. So then it became the problem of doing the drills. And what happens is everybody's human. I understand you want to get it over with. This is safety and security, as you know, unless something happens recently. Then everybody, all of a sudden, we're at DEF CON 4 or whatever.
Yeah.
After a while, it kind of dies down and safety becomes like 20th or 30th on the list. Well, we say, hey, we're going to run a lockdown drill. Okay. So what usually will happen, because teachers are under enormous amount of pressure, testing and getting the grades up for the kids in the school, they will pre-plan. Well, we're going to lock those doors, shut the blinds off, sit on the floor, everything. But okay, let's go. I want to get this over with. I got papers to, no, that's not the way I wanted this to work. It still worked sometimes like that because as an adult, I didn't blame the kids really. They usually would listen, but the adults would, they just wanted to get it over with. To them, it was kind of like the old adage of, well, it's never going to happen here. And we don't need to do this. So that was tough, trying to get them in the mindset that, look, it's just an hour, hour and a half out of your day. We'll get it over with. We're only going to do this every quarter. It's going to be fine. Let's just run it correctly. And a lot of times they didn't, because a lot of times, again, being under pressure, they would make an announcement. I don't mean to laugh, but it'd make an announcement, say, hey, the lockdown's over. Everybody go back to school. And no, that's not the way you're supposed to run it, because I don't know. You could have some bad guy get on the loudspeaker and say, yeah, it's all over with. Come on out so I can shoot you.
Yeah, I'm like, what if it was an
Just,
imposter?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's really strange. I mean, you can what if it to death, but I wanted it to just to run at a certain way. And this is 140 schools, and I had to have the Florida legislator finally woke up and said, look, and the Florida Department of Education said, look, we need a safety plan from every one of these schools, every one of them. So
Yeah.
what they would do is, it didn't matter to me. Look, make a safety plan. I don't care what it is, 10, 12 pages, at least, make it with enough things that you hit on here. So they would just copy off each other. Say, hey, what did you send? Did you send it? Okay, let me just copy off you and put my name, our school name on the top and do it that way. Some of them took it seriously. I'd get 50 pages of stuff. But again, because it was legislated that way, Department of Education, that worked in that aspect. But other than that, you get pushback because it was a lot of change. that was happening. And, parents also, I tried to get them involved, and it sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. I'll tell you what, there's a whole bunch of stories. No, we don't have a lot of time. I had a school here, Shorecrest, which is near, they got flooded out because of the hurricanes. They're on a low level plain, but they're a very good school system. I knew the principal there, and she complained to me. She said, look, she says, I have a lot of parents at the beginning of the school year, because it's elementary, bringing their children into the classrooms and dropping them off. I said, well, yeah, I get it. First 3 days, she goes, oh no, this is all year round. I'm like, whoa, what the hell? So I was like, are you kidding me? I said, you can't have people just walking around in your school that they're not badged. You never check them. I don't know what they're doing. So we had a meeting, 7 o'clock at night, have a meeting with all these parents. This is the new policy that's going to happen. After 3 days, the first 3 days, I get it. The kids don't know where they're going. You can take them directly to the class. But I'm telling you, as a kid, most of these kids, I've seen them, they'll look back at their parents going, hey, Dad, Mom, I got this. They want to be independent. They don't want you leading them. My God, that was the worst thing when I was a kid, to have your parents take you to class.
Yep.
But these parents, well, oh no, that's the reason we came to the school, for this reason. So I could bring my child directly to the classroom every day. This was like, I was getting emails. There was shouting and yelling and cursing. They wanted to kill me. So I finally said, there was a row of people in the front, and I had two people there, a man and a woman. And I said to the guy, I said, do you know this woman sitting next to you? He goes, I just know her, that I see her sometimes here at the school. And he said, well, would you trust that person to walk into that school and either say something or do something to your child? Well, no, I wouldn't. I said, well, that's what's happening. Think about it. I don't trust anybody. I said, I don't know what you do outside of the school. I have no idea. But I'm not going to trust anybody to go into the school unchecked and not escorted and not know what they're doing. I have no idea what they're doing. None. You could be. And the other thing was, it didn't matter. It didn't have to be a parent. It could have been Uncle John. It could have been the neighbor. It could have been a pedophile down the street that's bringing the kid into the school, because it was driving me crazy. Finally, I was able to get at least 3/4 of the people now on my side saying, yes, we agree with you. But there was a good 10% that said, no, I'm pulling my kid out. I don't want this. I want to bring my kid. I tried to explain to them. I said, why? What's the reason that you need your child to go and escort them all the way to the classroom? And I guarantee you they lied, because most of the time parents want to talk to the teacher or talk to another kid because he's being bullied or something like that. That's why oh my God, why are you testing my kid? Why is this happening? I said, no, this has to stop. You can't continue to do this, because something could happen. And the principal has no idea the amount of adults that are in that school of what's going on. So oh my gosh, that was just horrible. But thank God the principal stuck to her guns, and she said, nope, we're doing this. And I'm very glad that she did. So that was just one example of things I ran into during this time. But you try to talk some common sense to most of these people, and after a while they realize it. The other thing was, there was a school it was a middle school. And again, these schools were built back in the 50s and 60s. So you'd walk into the school and it had a low countertop, basically up to like maybe your thighs. And they would use half doors. The doors were these half doors. Well, one day a father came in. He says, I want to pick up my child. Okay, let's look in the index to see if you're allowed to come in. And he wasn't, because there was a divorce going on. He was not allowed to go get this child. Everything blew up. He jumps the counter, attacks a couple of the staffers, runs into the school. I have no idea if he even knew where his child was. Nothing happened, thank God. Nothing. He didn't have a weapon on him or anything like that. But all of a sudden, okay, but now what? Okay, now we've got to get that countertop higher. Now we have to bring glass, just like a bank. We got to bring the glass down. So there's a little slot. You have to be buzzed in. And at first, because I realized it the same way, when you first walked into the school, it felt very claustrophobic, because you have this glass, you have this big counter. It's like, oh my God. But it is something to get used to. And I would explain to the parents, look, we're here to save not only the staff members from being abused, from your child also, having issues. So once you explain something like that to people, it does settle them down that, okay, I get it. My child's much safer. But mostly, I tell you what, Barbie, and I don't want to get off on the subject, the main subject that I like to talk about on these podcasts, and that is the type of lockdowns that are out
Yeah.
there. Regular
Yes.
lockdown, we pretty much all know that. The door is locked, the lights are off, kids sit on the floor, blinds are closed, you silence your phone, you do not listen to any announcements, you do not open that door for anything, anybody. You banging on that door, you're not opening that door.
Yeah.
That's it. Very simple, that everybody's safe. What's happening is, I would say within the past 10 years, there's a company called Alice. It's an acronym, ALICE. And also there's something called Run, Hide, Fight, which I'm hoping that hasn't gone much anywhere. Usually use that in businesses. And with these other type of marketing deals, it's more, you instead of being passive, because as you're sitting on the floor, they feel the kids are sitting ducks. They're not, but it's
Yeah.
more passive.
Yeah.
Alice training is more reactive, and the teachers
Yes.
love it, and administrators love it because I get to do something. I get to react to what's going on. Well,
Mm.
it turns into a liability factor because not only do principals go out and challenge these shooters, we've seen it happen in Sandy Hook, we've seen it happen in Nashville, we've seen it at Margie Stoneman Douglas, where individuals get hurt because they go and try to talk down the shooter who is they're mentally incapable of that at that point. You should talk to them 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, the other thing they say to do is we're going to have the children, if the gunman gets in the classroom, which I'm still trying to figure out how the gunman got in there if the door's locked, throw things at the gunman. Now, I don't care what kind of, what you're thinking of something like that, but if I'm a parent, I sure as heck am not going to have my kid go through some training where he has to throw something at a gunman. To me, it's like, that's just going to really, excuse me, piss somebody off. And
Yeah. Even the martial artist in me is going, no,
yeah,
absolutely not.
why would you do something,
No.
especially a child when they're in this kind of confrontation, this emotionally, I mean, just that emergency thing that's going to last the rest of their lives, and they're going to have to throw something precisely at some, then do what? Knock them out? I don't get it. I really
Yeah.
don't get it. But they love this kind of training, and I really want to try to tell them avoid this type of training.
Yeah.
I'm old school. You stay with the lockdown. Well, they're sitting ducks. That means if they get into the room, they're going to shoot these kids. Well, okay, here's an example. There is no, and no one's ever challenged this. No shooter has ever shot through a locked door. None. Of all the shootings we've had at school shootings from going back hundreds of years, basically, because it's been happening for hundreds of years, they've never shot the lock off a door. It takes too long. They're looking for easy access. You
Easy
see the
targets.
Nashville video, locked, they go on, lock, you open, they go in. So you keep the door locked because it takes too long. Anyway, it doesn't happen. It just
Mhm.
is unrealistic. It's not something that it helps kids. And I tell you what, I try to put myself in the place of these teachers. If I'm a teacher, even if someone tells me I saw the gunman, I know where they are, I'm not leaving that classroom. Why? Why do I need to evacuate? I've got 25 to 30 kids that I'm going to gather up. We're all going to go together and we are going to run. You're not walking like in the drill. You are going to run, I mean, as fast as you can to the exit, wherever it is, even if it's right next to your classroom. I guarantee you, you're going to have at least 5 or 6 of those kids go, oh no, my daddy said I stay in here, or they freeze and they
Mhm.
just will not move. Why would you put these kids through dramatic? They're already traumatic enough just sitting there on the floor hearing horrible sounds. I hate this idea that it's okay, let's go, we're going to evacuate and be safe. No, they're perfectly safe in that classroom. It's just, it boggles my mind. And they'll say, well, what if, what if? They give you the what if. Fine. That's a separate situation. If you are targeted, if they're targeted for Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones, you got a heavy ass desk there. You can bust up against that door and they're not getting in if you are targeted. And that targeted means they got to sit at that door for like 10 minutes trying to get the darn thing open. Not going to happen. So it's really not a lot of common sense that deals with some of this training. And I really hate it because you're confusing the teachers, you're confusing the kids, and the liability is impossible. My county alone, they have what's called options-based training. They will tell the teacher, you have the option. You can stay in the classroom or you can evacuate. So here's a teacher who is untrained in this aspect at the last split second going to decide a life or death situation to say, well, maybe I should say, oh God, maybe we should leave. Are you kidding me?
No.
You put the
And
liability on this person
yeah,
because they wash their hands of it. We didn't make the decision. That was the teacher's decision to do
yeah.
that. No. So I ask parents, look, talk to your kids. I understand you're busy. I understand it's a texting and stuff. They can't get off the darn phone. And we all don't sit down for supper anymore. Talk to them, get 5 minutes to talk to them. What is going on in your school during an emergency? Just ask them. If they say we do a lockdown, we sit on the floor quietly, that's it. If they say, oh, we throw things at the gunman or we're running out of the class, no, the red flag should go up and that parent should say, I got to talk to the school. If you don't get anywhere with the administrator or the teacher that you talk to, go to the school board. I understand you get 3 minutes, but you can get a page and a half in 3 minutes. You talk fast enough. If that doesn't satisfy you, go to your state legislature and say, what the heck is going on at this school? Or last resort, you got to pull your kid out or they homeschool. And I tell you what, there is a lot more homeschooling going on now than there was years ago because, as you know, during the pandemic, they found out what is being taught in these schools. Like, whoa, what happened to math and
Yes.
writing and English? So it's very difficult nowadays, and parents have to be aware of how things happen in these schools. And it's too late when something happens. It's much too late when something happens and put the blame game on. Do it ahead of time. This is the way things should be run, and leave it at that. But and I get questions, Barbara Ann, all the time about, well, what's going to happen in the future? Is it going to get better? No, I'm sorry, it's not.
Yeah.
Only I only say that because, and this is not my lane, because of the mental health issues, because of
Yes.
the no help there. You've got kids now that are being cyberbullied 24 hours a day, girls and boys, the texting, the phones. I think what really helps though is getting the phones out of the classroom. That way they can focus on their studies. They can talk to each other. No more of this texting from across the room. I mean, that's crazy. I think that's going to help. But the big thing again is, again, it's not my lane, is the mental health aspect. And what they have now in these schools is called a threat assessment team, which is a good thing. It's been happening the past few years. They'll get together as a threat assessment team and figure out where are threats coming from. I understand there is difficulty there with civil rights on how far you can push it, to stop someone from doing this. But it just takes eyes and ears. Technology is not going to help. Cameras and metal detectors are not going to help. It's human interaction that's going to help in this area.
Agreed. And what's interesting is because not all threat assessment teams are equal.
Mm-mm.
My son in first grade, we're a gun family. We're all trained. My husband and son are both SORA certified, safety officer. I always forget what the A stands for, but and concealed carry because of work that they do.
Mhm.
And in first grade, he was suspended for a week and determined to be a threat because he pointed his fingers in the shape of a gun while playing.
Yeah, my son did the same
And
thing. He drew a gun. Same
yeah,
thing. Yep.
and their logic was, yeah, but he comes from a gun family. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
actually partly what makes him safer because he's
exactly.
been trained. We have the safe. We have always talked about like you don't ever point a gun at anybody, even as a joke. You always treat a weapon as loaded, even if it's not. And
Right.
these are things that people that don't necessarily have backgrounds in are now teaching other people who are then teaching other people, and that knowledge gets diluted and
Yes.
misunderstood. And to your point about mental health, I mean, not all people with mental health issues engage in shooting, but definitely for the most part, the people who do these crimes do have mental health issues. And
Yes.
so mental health is a crisis in this country and in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
And so I
Agreed.
know as we approach time, there's so many important things that you said, but I really want you to talk a bit about the first 5 minutes
Yeah,
because
the
it,
um the book that came out right after Uvalde. If the people don't remember, Uvalde, Texas is where you had an individual that got into school. Everything kind of went wrong, the whole step of the way. I
yeah,
understand the police, but there was other things wrong with that school. The door was left open by a teacher. The lock wasn't locked; it was broken. The security guard, he disappeared somewhere. The individual got in and started shooting these kids. And then when the police arrived, it just became a disaster because they didn't have the proper training. I don't understand. No one understood really what's going on. But anyway, once that happened, I was so angry. And my wife at the time, she said, look, you got to vent. You got to get this out there. So I wanted a book that was a guidebook. I did not want a 200 or 300 page diatribe that sat on the shelf and collected dust. I wanted something simple. These are this all you have to do. Very simple. Have, implicit memory. It's something that would a light switch goes off. Okay, I'm going to lock down. This is what I got to do. That's it. I mean, something very simple. So that's the reason I wrote it. Again, it's only 77 pages. Heck, you read the darn thing in a few hours. But I just wanted something for teachers and parents to look through quickly. This is something I need to do. It's great. And in the book, I forgot to mention this, I have these credit card size quick reference cards. And the reason I did that, it worked in our system because you can attach it to your lanyard. Most teachers have an ID or a copy card. You put on because you're going to forget something. I don't know if you've been in emergencies. I'm not saying if you have what happens, but a lot of times you'll freeze up. What
Sure.
day is it? You'll forget your name. I mean, because things will start happening to your body and you're panicking and oh my gosh, just look at the card. Okay. Oh, I forgot to turn the lights off. Okay. Because your just mind is just spinning at 100 miles an hour trying to figure out what to do. So that's the reason I did that. And it's just something that's quickly they can look at it. And I had that in the book. You could download it in the book. But yeah, that's the reason I wrote the book. I wanted something out there that was simple and basic. There's a lot of books like that out there. It's just something, again, I think it was just, I got to get it off my chest. So I just had to get it out there. And it was a process. I mean, I've never written a book before. I didn't know what I was doing. So anyway, but I've gotten some good feedback. So again, I'm not on here to promote that. In fact, I don't go on podcasts to do that. I don't market myself or have a business or anything like that. It's basically, I just want to get the parents involved in this and leave your audience with two things before we forget. Number one is keep yourself safe. Then you can help others. I've had plenty of principals during drills, even Barbara Ann, that I said, well, during the drill, I said, we're all going to be locked down, right? I'm the ghost. I'm not supposed to be here. I'll be the one walking around. And the principal goes, oh no, I walk around to make sure all the teachers have doors locked. I said, well, what would you do during a real drill? He says, I do the same thing. I said, well, then you're not going home. I said, what are you thinking? And this was not just one principal. This was multiple principals, especially in elementary school. They feel they have to protect their kids. I said, do you have a gun on you? What are you doing? And the tears, they would start crying, saying, I have to save my kids. Yes, you do. Go in your office, lock the door, sit on the floor, and wait till the police get here. That's what you're going to do. And it was just such emotional trauma for them to do that because, again, a principal, just like a police officer, very alpha personality, they want to do things. And that's why this Alice training is happening because they want to be reactive. So that's number one. You keep yourself safe, then you're going to be able to help others. The other thing is I fully embrace special resource officers that are armed. We have them here in Florida. They go through specific training. They are not there to harass kids or arrest them. They are there to protect them. They are an advocate between parents, teachers, the school system, and police. They are there because they love it. That's why they do it. They go through an intense amount of training. They love what they do. They love these kids. They want to protect them and disregard what happened to Margie Stone Douglas with the security guards, this other place. That's like 0.001% of what happens with these SROs. But I would definitely advocate for that. Don't spend money on cameras that you don't need or metal detectors or something else you think technology. Spend it on personnel and people that really want to do the job and really help your school.
Excellent advice. Because yeah, the truth is, regardless of where anybody watching this podcast stands politically, this is the reality that we face. And so, and I especially love the card because you're right. The human response is fight, flight, freeze, or fawn.
Exactly. Yes.
And you just cannot, everybody says, you brought a knife to a gunfight. I mean, well, you cannot help other people if you cannot survive
No.
yourself.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. No one knows how they're going to react in an emergency. You don't know. You can think you might do something, but you have no idea how you're going to react. I mean, you've had training, and my training would kick in. Of course, I'd probably reach for my ghost gun that's not there. but normal people, I had a school, again, I know we're running out of time, but I had a school in north of here where the assistant principal trained her people correctly, did the drills, everything ran great. They had a real event, a real event. And after the event, you always have an after action. Found out 1/3 of her teachers froze,
Yeah,
did nothing.
because that's what
You don't
humans do.
know.
Yeah.
Yes, you just don't know how you're going to react. So that's why I would like at least quarterly, do your drills, the kids get used to it, the teachers get used to it, and you're going to be safe.
Yeah. And who else know and who knows where it could help them in another situation outside of the school.
Exactly.
It could
Yes.
be life-saving in another situation, be it a
Yes.
church or a nightclub or whatever.
Yes, I agree.
But schools definitely. Thank you so much. For people who want to be able to get in contact with you,
Mhm.
what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, if you go on LinkedIn, you've got my email address on there. I think I also have it in the book. The book's on Amazon. But yes, I'm on LinkedIn and on Facebook, the first 5 minutes. There's also a site there for that. If you have any questions or anything, you can get a hold of me that way. I'd be glad to answer any question you have.
And I know the book is available at least on Amazon, if not
Yes.
other sites as well, in case anybody wants to get that too.
Yes.
So for any of you that have children or grandchildren or work in the school system or work in other facilities, like there's a lot of very useful, handy tips regarding what to do in a scenario. It doesn't just happen in schools.
That's true.
And in the United States, as well as some other countries, but especially in the United States, this is the reality that we do live in this times.
Hmm.
And so to be forewarned is to be prepared. So
Exactly.
thank you so much, Daniel, for
You're
coming
welcome.
on. I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you, fellow service. Mine was a lot less dangerous than the service that you provided, but thank you for the service that you provided to the country and for doing what you can to enhance and save the lives of children
Yes. Thank you.
throughout
You're
Florida
welcome.
and now on the broader scale. And so there you go, another podcast with another amazing guest. And I hope for those of you who are tuning in that you will continue to come back for more amazing conversations with amazing guests who have pivoted from valuable, in this case, very valuable career to another valuable career, kind of accidentally, but it was
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
great that he did it. Because literally lives could be saved as a result of the work that he's done and is continuing to do. And also, thank you for tuning in. You have so many options out there that you could be watching and listening to. So we really appreciate the fact that you're watching us, and we ask that you share it with somebody else so that they can get the benefits that you're hopefully getting from watching us as well. And also, please remember, whether you personally or someone you know is looking to make a change in your life or career, no matter how big or small, tune in for more illuminating, fascinating, and inspirational and informative conversations with guests such as Daniel. He figured out what his purpose in life was and lived it.